Hello, my dear church boys, and welcome back to Saint Robert's Daygame podcast. And in this podcast episode, we will be talking about Daygame in Dubai. We will be talking about what Daygame is like in Dubai, and it's very different from other parts of the world because partially it's not really legal. And we'll be talking about how local guys hit on girls and how that became the reason why Daygame isn't necessarily legal in Dubai. We'll be also talking about what types of girls you're gonna meet there, and importantly, Dubai is known for having a lot of professionals, a lot of gold diggers, sugar babies. We're going to talk about how to understand from how the girl looks if she is most likely a professional or sugar baby or whatever else, or she's a girl worth actually approaching. We're also going to be talking about where you should be day gaming if you go there. And an important question I'm gonna ask this guy, since because he learned day game in Dubai, which is a very hard place to learn day game at because of many aspects which you will understand later in this podcast. I'm gonna ask him, how did he succeed in Dubai? And before we get into this topic, as always, a few updates about where I am, what plans lay ahead, and coaching spots. I'm still in Riga, Latvia. I'm staying here until end of August, kind of second part of August. I'm spending September in a nice city in Poland, and I have one coaching spot available there. And as it happens to be, it is the last available coaching spot in Europe this coaching season, because in early October, I have booked my flights to Mexico. I'm heading back to Latin America. In November, I will be in USA where I will have 3 or maybe 4 coaching spots available. So if you're interested in doing something in Poland or afterwards in USA, then the link to find out everything about coaching and to sign up is in description. Go there, read the description, fill the form at the bottom of the page, and I'll get back to you with all the details, the prices, the cities, the dates, and everything else. And now let's talk about Daygame in Dubai. Well, hello, anonymous daygamer. Let's start with a very simple question. Why are we doing this anonymously? Why are we doing this with no video? What's up with Daygame in Dubai?
Well, it's a traditional country. It's not that traditional, but it is traditional with respect to women's rights and safety and all of that. And they're like the way people usually approach girls over here is extremely non-calibrated, and there's just like a bit of a different way of approaching things. And um, in the past, like a few day gamers have been caught and they've been fined. They've also been deported. So yeah.
Do you know what was the fine?
No clue. Like that was the last time I heard from them. That's about it.
Yeah, that's pretty hardcore. So if anyone is complaining about day game in the West or whatnot and how blah blah blah, it's all nonsense. Like everything is fine in most places in the world. Like the only places where day games sketchier are the places that are really strict, like Dubai, like some Middle Eastern countries, and obviously some places where the guys are going to be a bit more aggressive about you approaching their women. So we recorded a podcast yesterday with Robbie Kramer and his coach Nick, and they were telling me stories about Istanbul, Turkey, how you're going to have to be a bit kind of careful with the local guys seeing you approaching girls, and they might be a bit they might get a little bit aggressive. So I have met a girl from Dubai when I was in London. I think it was 2 years ago, maybe a bit more. I don't really remember exactly. Yeah, 2 years ago. And we had a lovely adventure with her, and she had a boyfriend back in Dubai. And she was telling me how in Dubai, it's fairly typical for guys to hit on women, but that the local guys would kind of follow them and keep trying to get her attention and like not let them go and just almost walk with them all the way to their home and being really aggressive. So is that the case?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you like a few examples. Um, so, do you want me to just tell the situation? I'll give you a few examples and
yeah, let's do that. Sure.
Okay, so there was this like black girl whom I wanted to approach, like glorious ass. Like when you see someone walking, it's pretty obvious. Like guys do want to approach her, that sort of a thing. But nobody was approaching her, so I approached her like a front stop. And then like 10 seconds inside the set, there was like another guy who just walks in, and he's like, "Yeah, take my business card and call me." So which is a strong provider game. Then the other day I was gaming in the mall, and there was like this attractive Middle Eastern chick, and the country where she was, and girls from that country are known to be sex workers, better. So she was walking, and local men just sort of like see like two of them would just looking at her, and they just go like, which is creepy in my opinion, but okay, that's the game over there. And then the other day, I also approached a two set, and they said, "Oh my God, thank God you've come, because we were being followed by these two men all across the mall." So yeah.
Did those guys also talk to her, or were they just kind of stalking, kind of just walking behind them?
Stalking. That's it.
Yeah, that's impressive. That's real. That's real Dubai Daygame. But yeah, it's a different part of the world, and people do these things differently there. Of course, it's kind of weird and it's kind of backwards. But for me and for many people, but for them, it's their culture. I'm not gonna kind of mess with how they hit on girls as long as it's consensual. But again, kind of what was the saying? Not my circus, not my monkeys.
Yeah.
Kind of none of my deal. So. Okay, so there are some problems with that in Dubai, and of course, but if you are calibrated, so you've been daygaming for a while. I mean, we've been talking and doing calls with you for like a year, maybe 2 years, kind of on and off, and you've been daygaming for a while. Have you ever had any encounters with police or any other things like that?
Yeah, during my twice. This was when I was horribly calibrated, like when I wasn't calibrated, basically, not horribly calibrated. So like a skilled daygamer will come to know like when it's an IOD and when you need to get out of that and get out of the set. But as a beginner, the rule is like still persons. So I just legit took that literally. And when the girl left, someone was like, "Hey, just come here." And I came over there. So he's like, "Who are you?" I'm like, "I'm just a normal guy." He's like, "I know what you're doing right there. Don't do that. I'm a cop." He just pulls up his ID and shows it to me. So the moment something like that happens, you just want to apologize, look into their eyes, and just say sorry again and again and again. That was the first time. And the second time was when I was beginning to understand the model, and this was during COVID times. Well, when the restrictions slightly started getting easier. So like a group of CIDs, basically like 2 or 3 of them, they just suddenly stopped me, and they suddenly stopped the girl who was approaching, and they asked the girl basically, "What is the guy telling you?" And the girl luckily didn't really understand English. She didn't understand what I had to say. And then they were like, "Okay, show me your ID." And then they click a photo of it, and then I apologize, and they tell me to go. That's it. But that's pretty much about it. Because I think I'm fairly calibrated enough relative to the scenarios.
So basically, if you don't want to end up in jail, I want a day game in Dubai, you better be calibrated. That's the takeaway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
only with regards to your approach. With regards to your approach that I would say, like, you don't want to do like a front stop in a shopping mall. That's stupid. Yeah.
Okay. What sort of stuff would you do in a shopping mall?
I'll probably do like a side stop, but the main thing that people need to understand is like your stop needs to be energetic enough so that the girl actually stops and forgets what she's actually doing. And that's what I like to believe. And yeah, like sometimes I do front stops in the shopping mall. If like the surroundings or the radius of the girl is actually really clear enough for me to actually go and do like a turnaround all the time.
Okay, let's talk about types of girls in Dubai. So Dubai is a place where you have locals, you have people from other countries from that part of the world coming there. You have literally people from all over the world. So what's the situation with that? What types of girls will guys see in Dubai?
Like, yeah, you get a lot of sugar babies or gold diggers. I don't know if that's a polite word to say, but
I mean, it is what it is.
Opportunists, basically. opportunists basically who come from the stereotype that of Eastern European girls being sugar babies, etc. That is true. There are like a fair share of them over here. Then there are girls. There are like a fair share of girls from Western Europe, from the UK. So they're usually amongst themselves per se.
Wait, so girls from UK, are they just tourists or what's the deal there?
They usually work over here. There's a huge English community over here.
Okay, so they're working not as sex workers, like regular jobs in Dubai.
Yeah, but
Okay.
like due to the novel component on the way they look, like blonde hair, blue eyes, sort of thing, they're often pedestalized by Jodes over here. So the third is a fair share of sex workers from the Middle East. So from, let me guess which countries. From Iran, maybe a little bit of Lebanon, a little bit of Egypt, Morocco, a fair share of Moroccans over here. Most of the sex workers from the Middle East are from Morocco over here. That's about it. And then South Asians, people from my country, I wouldn't like to reveal that.
Yes.
And that's where the normality is, like the low class sort of a thing.
Okay. You said previous time we tried to record this, you said there are also a bunch of girls from some countries in Africa.
Yeah, Africa as well. Yeah, fair share of them from Africa, and a fair share of them are usually not usually, but you'll find a fair share of them to be sex workers as well.
So it sounds like I'm getting an impression that Dubai is basically full of sex workers and sugar babies from different parts of the world. Is that the case, or are there actually girls that you can approach and that are actually approachable?
No, there are tons of girls that you can approach. It's not full of it, but there's like a huge share of it. It's basically like a Miami, basically. That's what I would like to say.
So let's then talk about one very simple question. Since there are so many professionals in Dubai, and someone who hasn't lived there for a long time might not really know how to spot a professional, how to recognize, oh, she's probably a sugar baby, oh, she's a pro. So what are some red flags if you see these things in a girl and she is probably a professional and for the most part, it's not really worth talking to her?
I've like heavily decked up. I'm not, like, again, disclaimer, I'm not saying like just because a girl is decked up, she's a professional. But this is the pattern that I've noticed over here. Heavily decked up. And usually there's some sort of modifications done to her body in the form of lips, in the form of nose. Yeah. Tits, asses, and whenever I see someone like that at something like around 11 o'clock in the morning or 12 o'clock in the morning, which is the usual working hours, that raises up like a bit of a red flag in my head. So yeah.
So does it mean that most people who have plastic surgery are sex workers, or is there like okay, if it's just tits or just lips, it's fine, but if it's like tits, ass, and lips and 7 other things, then probably she's a professional?
Over here, yeah, that would yes, like over here, in my opinion, yes. But I've seen exceptions as well. I've been with exceptions as well. So
yeah. With yes, you mean even if it's just one surgery, the likelihood of her being a professional is very high.
Yeah.
Okay, that's very interesting. So how do girls that are not professionals look, and are there, like, if she is not kind of totally covered in makeup, isn't kind of dolled up and doesn't have fake everything, is it safe to assume that?
Can you give me a second? Someone just on the door. Okay. Open. Yeah, apologize about that. Sorry about that.
So how do you recognize who's actually not a sex worker, who is worth approaching?
Like first of all, you gotta sort of like spend some time over here for that. But I've usually the patterns that I've noticed, like back in the day when I would actually get a girl's Instagram thinking that it would be on, which is funny. Like when I would look at her Instagram, she would go to all these fancy ass places and there would be no guy with her, like no one. And there's no sign of a bit of a job, no modeling contracts. I'd go like, okay, where the hell is this money coming from? And then when I would actually persist, please go out with me, please talk to me. She's like, okay, I'll charge you this much. I'm like, okay.
Wait, did you beg them to go out with you?
Yeah, that was back in the day when I had no game. So
okay.
Yeah, that's point number one. Then, like, they usually come from a few specific countries. So, Russia, Ukraine, and Morocco, a little bit of Algeria, and a little bit of Egypt. But yeah, these are usually the countries that would raise alarm bells in my head, where I'd go like, okay, yeah, she is one. So yeah.
Okay, so when if someone approaches a lot of women without filtering too much how they look, because maybe they don't know how to figure out who could be a professional, they haven't developed that kind of however we call that, like that I don't know, that feeling or whatever from that you get from spending a lot of time in Dubai and day gaming there, and then kind of learning these signs. Let's say they open without too much filtering. How fast would they find out she's a professional? Would that be during the conversation on the street, or would that be over text, or are there cases where it only comes up when they are already out on a date?
They usually go out for shopping around that particular like I rarely found like when I'm girls, like sex workers usually go in the club with someone. They're usually with the provider basically. So it's pointless to approach them. Yeah.
No, but let's say someone is day gaming, is approaching everyone. The question is, when will the professional say that, hey, there's a price tag, or I want this, I want that? Will they say that on a conversation while they're talking, or over text, or on a date, or?
Yeah. So in my experience, 70% of them usually say it after I get the number, and 30% say it overtly during the set, like in the first, after the stacking the wiving phase. That's in my experience. They overtly say like, I'm a business girl.
I'm a business girl. In Latin America, they usually say, I'm an entrepreneur. Like they
yeah.
And then in most cases it means what it means, and then in some other cases it just means well, not in all places.
Yes,
that's what I noticed in Colombia.
I've also seen like a slight bit of South Americans to be as professionals as well. Yeah.
Do you know which countries they were from? Was it mostly Colombia or all over the place? Because in Latin America, most professionals, in my opinion, in my experience, come from Colombia.
Colombia, hands down.
Yeah, of course.
And a little bit of Brazil and a little bit of Portugal. That's it.
Portugal.
Yeah.
Portugal in Europe.
Yeah.
Oh, that's weird. I was surprised. But yeah, Brazil, I could expect that. But then again, Brazil is such a big country and there's so many people in Brazil that, yeah, it kind of would make sense.
No, with the stereotypical Brazilians, like with the big baboons, tan skin, sort of that look.
Yeah, okay. So in some cases they will say that overtly in a set, and then 70% of the time they will reveal that over text. Have you had a case where a girl only says that when you went out on a date with her?
No. But since your audience likes funny stories, can I tell a story?
Obviously, that's why we're here for.
Yeah. So, like, this was when lockdown, like a week or two before lockdown began. So things were shutting down. The gym where I used to work was shutting down, so were asked to go back home. And I was living in sharing basically with a couple of people. So, and most of the people in the house that I used to live with were Africans, and they were from the middle, like North Africa part, like the Middle Eastern African part, like Morocco, Egypt. So I would roam around in the common compound or the kitchen, which was shared by tons of people in boxes. So, and the boxes would be like really, really loose. Yeah. So one day there was this really hot black girl whom I was not used to seeing in the house. She was probably from like another flat. She came to our house to use a few utensils, and she was a friend of one of my flatmates in that house. So when I do speak to a girl, like I've got a very filthy look in the eye. So like people have told me about my eye contact during the set, which is a plus point. I'm like, hi, I've never seen you around here. And like I was just immediately eye fucking her then and there. And in the middle, like I was just running Daygame. I was just running the Daygame model on her. But this was not exactly a Daygame scenario. And in the middle of the set, I got an erection right in front of her then and there. So, and she didn't seem to object it, which was like a plus point. So, in fact, she was also smiling. Yeah, I told her, hey, I would like to smoke a cigarette. You know, I can't really seem to find a cigarette. Do you have a cigarette? She's like, yeah, why don't you come over to my place and I'll give you a cigarette. I'm like, ooh, there's things that have been this easy. So I go to her place, and she doesn't let me enter, but she gets a cigarette from her room and she gives me a cigarette. I'm like, okay, like the view from my balcony is really, really good. So why don't you come back to my balcony in like 30 minutes? And she comes 2 hours later and all dolled up and decked up, which raises a few red flags in my head. But then I almost got third base without paying. And then she's like, okay, give me the money. I'm like, no, that's rubbish. I didn't know that. And then I kick her out of the house, basically. Yeah.
Dubai lifestyle, Dubai adventures. Nice. Okay, so
Yeah.
we understand the types of girls. We understand what's the situation with Daygame there, what to do, kind of to understand that if she looks kind of a bit too princessy, a bit too kind of dolled up, then she's probably a professional, especially if she has done some plastic surgery. Still, if someone wants to Daygame in Dubai, I watched a video about Dubai yesterday. On one of the vloggers that I follow put out a video about Dubai, and it seemed like a place where you need a car to get anywhere. It seemed like there's no way you really have to know where you have to be. It's not going to be like there's not going to be a whole lot of people on the streets, so you have to know where to go for Daygame. So where do people Daygame? Where can people Daygame in Dubai?
I'm not going to name any particular place, but I'll give an obvious hint. There are like 2 malls over here. Those 2 big malls are like the places to be. The weather's awful, so it's practically impossible to Daygame outdoors. But it's unless and until you're good at beach Daygame. But beaches over here are also like there are 2 types of beaches, like public beaches and paid beach bars, which is filled with usually drunk Western European stags, and they're usually with their significant other. So yeah, the chances of beach Daygame are like really, really rare. Although I did get a pull from beach Daygame once or twice. During winter time, that's when this is the place to be, because there are like tons of tourists who come over here. That's only for like a month. That's about it. But it's a city with very less pedestrians. It's the roads are really, really good over here, and people usually drive around here because the cars are really cheap relatively to another country.
Okay, so guys should look where the big malls are, and they should Daygame in the malls. What about places around some gyms, or I assume there are no shopping streets? Are there areas with like bars and cafes or something where there are some people outside, or there's none of that in Dubai?
No, the bar culture is horrible over here, because first of all, the drinks are really expensive. For like a beer, It's like 55 drams, which is like 11 euros, or no, 12 euros basically. No, 13 euros for like a beer.
Yeah.
And like, let's say if you want to go for a same day lay, if you want to go for like a same day delay, you want things to be like really, really nearby logistically next to you. So in the main day game area, there's only like 1 or 2 bars, and your house is usually way further away, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
logistically, it's not that great. So
Okay, so there's not a lot of bar culture. Beers are expensive. The only places to day game at are mostly malls. So how the fuck did you succeed with day game in Dubai? How did you do that? It sounds like a nightmare. Well, so what's the secret? What was your secret?
okay, succeed. Oh, thank you, coming from you. But yeah, you just show persistence and self-reflecting day in and day out. Second thing was like next to the main mall, 1 station away was where I used to work, and I shifted over there. So like within 10-15 minute drive, there was the shopping mall, there was a bar, and from the bar, like 10 minutes away was my house. So logistically, I've sorted out the logistics from my end. And yeah, like a fair share of lays I got through was from a coffee shop. You don't really need to drink every time to get like a lay. What else?
How did you
Yeah,
find non-professionals?
that's just going to come through calibration. That's just really going to come through calibration. That's what I'd
So a
say.
bunch of sets, kind of learning the signs, figuring out what's what, and that helps.
Yeah,
Anything else that you can think of that really helped you become a decent day gamer in Dubai?
just sheer persistence and like having calls with you. That's what I would tell them, because I was doing like a bunch of shit wrong. And it's possible, like, and people who say like Ukraine or Russia, etc., is hard, like, that's rubbish. Like, it's not harder than Dubai. That's what I would
Okay,
say.
well, yeah, Ukraine especially. I mean, I haven't been to day game to Russia, but I met many Russians in other countries. But from what I've spoken to guys that have been to Russia, that have been to Ukraine, everyone kind of says, yeah, Russia, that's one thing. Ukraine is on a whole different level. Like Ukraine is where it gets hard, whereas Russia is kind of like, I
Yeah,
wouldn't say easy game would be obviously not the right thing to say. It would be very stupid to say easy game about Russia, but it's much easier than Ukraine. That's kind of the conclusion. Okay.
yeah.
I know. Let's not talk about the countries where you have been, but
Yeah.
in general, compared to other places where you have been, how is day game different in Dubai?
Okay, so like for example, if I go like okay, if I go to a specific country where the main population is of people from that particular country, you can see patterns, because of the culture script over there, if that makes sense, you know. But if you go to a country like, let's say, London, or if you go to a country like Dubai, where it's so diverse, you can't really draw out patterns relative to the person's culture, because like, let's say if I approach a Ukrainian girl over here in Dubai, the way I run my set is going to be far more different than the way I run my set with like a bit of, if I meet a traditional Middle Eastern girl over here. So yeah, but one thing that really, really is common is you need to close her like within 1 or 2 days. Like the closure rate needs to be really, really fast. Like the way you escalate needs to be fast. Like once you're in, like just don't look back, sort of a thing.
Okay. Anything else that comes to mind that separates Dubai in terms of day game from other places you've been to?
Oh yes, yeah. Now, like I've been with like my notch count is 23, like in Daygame, from Daygame
Day
basically.
game, yeah.
Yeah. So like a few of them are from Bali, a few of them are like one or two of them are from Russia, two of them are from Ukraine. But now in those countries, if you were to go, it's it's not normal, but it's relatively accepted if you take a girl out to like an underground shady bar or like a hookah bar, whatever, But over here, the girl is usually going to expect you to pedestalize her and take her to a nice place, also out to dinner and shit like that, But you need to quickly separate yourself out from providers by not taking her to an expensive place, by doing your homework and by looking at which bar is like a happy hour 1-to-1 free sort of a thing, So yeah, like girls will usually expect a lot because a lot of the guys in the city have pedestalized them. But you need to do your homework to find out like cheap as bars where logistically you can pull from, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
That's one big tip that I can give people. Yeah.
Okay, how would they react to that when they, instead of fancy dinner, end up on a cheap bar?
Usually it's always been fine, in my opinion. Only once or twice. Only once or twice where the girl back in the day was like, okay, I'm gonna order this, I'm gonna order that. I mean, back then I should have just walked away because I should have just told her I'm not gonna pay for this, and I should have just walked away because it was my mistake. But I just let it happen. But usually it's been very, very positive because I select the bar. I don't even give her the option of anything else. I'll just directly ask like wine or beer, what do you want? Yeah, basically I'm taking control, so she doesn't really need to do anything. So that's been fairly positive because she knows like in the vibe what exactly is happening.
Okay, well, you've been daygaming for quite a while, and your game has progressed a lot from asking the same questions over and over again, and us kind of talking about, oh my God, will this dude stop asking the same questions every time? Which was like 2 years ago. Whereas now you're asking good questions, you're giving decent advice, you're getting much better results. Your game has progressed tremendously. What, having gone from a total beginner to a guy with a pretty decent game, what would, like, let's give like 2 tips to daygamers listening to this to end the podcast. So 2 tips that you would give daygamers right now struggling and trying to improve their game.
Yeah. Take action. Yeah. I can't stress the importance of that. And self-reflect. Like find someone who's 10 levels above you and then tell them shut up and take my money, and then you just teach me. That's it. Like don't be afraid to put your ego aside and just fix your mistakes then and there.
Okay, yeah, because that was your thing. You were always kind of like, I'm gonna do this on my own. I'm gonna do this on my own. I'm gonna do this on my own. And then you were like, okay, let's do some calls. And that's when the game really changed.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, like you know your shit. Like I mean, you're fairly technical. Even if you can take a nerdy guy and teach him game and take him from relatively where he is at to like a relatively better place, So yeah, that's what I'd say for you listeners,
Well, Mr. Anonymous Daygamer, thank you for enlightening us about Daygame in Dubai. And I hope to see you someplace, someday, someplace around the world. Thank you for doing this, and ciao.
No problem. Ciao.
Well, I don't think that after listening to this podcast, you're going to be going on Daygame trips to Dubai, but I hope if you are living in Dubai, this gave you some information, some insights on how to succeed there. And as I said in the introduction of this podcast, if you want to learn Daygame with me in September in a great city in Poland, or if you are in the US and want to learn Daygame there with me in November, then the link to find out everything about it is in the description. And if you found this podcast episode valuable, then please leave a review on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts or wherever else you're listening to this. And all of this being said, thank you for listening and see you in the next podcast episode. Ciao.